Have you ever wondered if betrayal is really the worst thing that can happen in a relationship? What if I told you that often betrayal is just the tip of a much larger and deeper iceberg? It sounds shocking, doesn't it? But the truth is, behind every lie, there could be an even darker secret, something no one wants you to discover. Have you ever thought that what you uncovered might just be the surface of something much more serious? Imagine what it would be like to find out that everything you believed to be true was just a facade. Does that scare you? Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. If you want to understand what's really happening, stay with me until the end of this video. I promise you won't see things the same way after hearing this story.
Diana was sitting at the kitchen table, the aroma of fresh coffee flooding the room. The morning light filtered through the curtains, creating an idyllic scene that contrasted with the turmoil in her mind. As she absent-mindedly scrolled through Evan's phone, her heart raced when she saw a message notification that wasn't meant for her. Hesitant, she opened the conversation and read the words that would leave her in shock. "I can't wait to see you again. I miss you." Reality began to crumble like a house of cards, and a wave of pain and betrayal engulfed her. "Evan, how could you?" she whispered, more to herself than to the phone, as tears welled up in her eyes. She felt the need to scream, but her voice failed. The image of her perfect marriage was replaced by an abyss of uncertainty and distrust. The weight of the betrayal crushed her, and she could no longer breathe. Finally, courage took over in a sudden impulse. Diana decided to confront her husband. When she entered the living room, she found Evan sitting on the couch, oblivious to the storm approaching. "We need to talk," she said, her voice trembling but determined. Evan looked at her, confused. "About what, honey?" "About this message," Diana replied, holding the phone like a weapon. "Who is this person? What is going on between you two?" He swallowed hard. "Diana, this is not what it seems. I was just distracted." "Distracted? Is that all you have to say?" She felt the anger rising inside her, and every word that came out of her mouth was laced with pain. "You betrayed me with my best friend. How can you justify that?" Evan tried to reach out to her. "Please listen to me. I made a mistake, but you need to understand that it wasn't about you. I was lost. Kylie means nothing to me." His words sounded hollow, like echoes of a truth she couldn't accept. "How can I trust you again? What else are you hiding from me?" Frustration and despair took over her as reality turned into a nightmare from which she couldn't wake up. Diana turned and left the house, the cool morning air hitting her face like a temporary relief. The path seemed endless, and her thoughts swirled in a mess. She needed support, but at the same time, she felt betrayed by those she loved most. So she decided to find Kylie, her best friend, not knowing that this encounter would also lead her to confront her greatest fears and insecurities. Diana entered the cafe, her thoughts still adrift after the emotional turmoil she had experienced. The smell of fresh coffee and the soft murmur of conversations around her seemed distant, as if she were in a bubble of despair. It was when her eyes adjusted to the soft light of the place that she saw him, Josiah. He was sitting at a table in the corner, engrossed in a book, but as soon as he saw her, he lifted his head and smiled widely. "Diana, it's been so long," he exclaimed, quickly standing up and approaching. The sincerity in his gaze brought a small relief to her heart, which was heavy with pain. "Hi, Josiah," she replied, trying to smile, but the sadness still weighed on her chest. "You look, well, different. What happened?" he asked, his expression concerned. I found out my husband cheated on me with a friend. It's all so hard to process," Diana confided, feeling tears threatening to well up again. Josiah watched her intently, his gaze full of empathy. "I'm so sorry, Diana. If you need someone to talk to, I'm here. I'll always be here." She hesitated, but his sincerity was like a shelter. "Thank you, Josiah. Sometimes everything seems so confusing. I don't know who to trust anymore." "You can always trust me," he said with a firm voice. "I know you, and I can listen without judgment." Diana took a deep breath and began to tell him everything. The betrayal, the feeling of isolation, the anger consuming her. As she spoke, Josiah listened attentively, his eyes never leaving her face. When she finished, he leaned in, as if wanting to ensure she knew how much he cared. "Diana, I've always had feelings for you, even when we were kids. Seeing you suffer like this hurts me," he confessed, and the sincerity of his words caught her off guard. "Josiah, this is unexpected. I don't know what to say, she replied, confused. The atmosphere between them changed, and the pain surrounding her felt a bit lighter, but his revelation left her in unfamiliar territory. You don't have to say anything now, but maybe you should look into your past. Sometimes family secrets have more to do with our lives than we imagine, Josiah suggested, his tone serious. Intrigued, Diana pondered. Do you think there's something in my past that could explain all this? Could be. What do you have to lose? Josiah asked, looking directly into her eyes. She hesitated, but the idea of exploring her past attracted her in an inexplicable way. Maybe you're right. I really don't know what to think anymore, but I can try. The conversation flowed naturally, like a river finally finding its way after a detour. The two lost themselves in the conversation, and for a brief moment, Diana felt hope rekindle inside her, something she hadn't felt since the betrayal had shattered her world. Diana was sitting on the cold floor of her room, surrounded by boxes of memories that had been forgotten over the years. The dim light from the window illuminated the space, creating a melancholic mood that reflected her emotional state. In her hands, she held an old photo of her mother, smiling next to a man who seemed to be a close friend. The man's face was familiar, but he was not someone Diana remembered. Her heart raced, and curiosity mixed with apprehension. What else did she not know about her own story? She decided that she needed to know more about this man and his relationship with her mother. As she ran her fingers over the photo, an impulse led her to contact Josiah. Josiah, do you remember my mother's friend, the one who was always at our house when we were kids? She asked, her voice trembling with anxiety. Yes, Diana, I do. He was an enigmatic man. Sometimes I felt there was something more between them, but I didn't know how to ask, Josiah replied, his voice deep echoing through the line. I need to know more about him. Something is wrong with this story, and I feel it's connected to what I'm going through now, Diana said, determined. Josiah hesitated for a moment, as if considering his words. Maybe you should look for that diary your mother always kept, you know? They say it holds many secrets. The suggestion lit a spark of hope in Diana. You're right, I'll look for it right now, she said, hanging up and feeling a wave of determination flood her being. With her heart pounding with anticipation, she began rummaging through the boxes. Between photos and letters, she finally found a small dusty diary hidden in a drawer. The pages were yellowed, and her mother's handwriting was delicate and flowing. As she opened the diary, the smell of old paper enveloped her, and she began to read. Today, I met the man who makes me feel alive, but there is something mysterious about him, something I can't explain. The reading took her to a world of memories and secrets, revealing a complex relationship her mother had with that man. Each passage seemed like a key to a puzzle Diana needed to solve. When she finished reading, her mind was in turmoil. She closed the diary and decided to share her findings with Josiah. When she met him minutes later, her eyes were shining with a mixture of expectation and fear. Josiah, you won't believe what I found. My mother had a relationship with a man who seems to have a dark past. This might be connected to Evan's betrayal. Josiah looked at her seriously. It could be that these secrets are more connected than you imagine. You need to dig into this, Diana. The truth might be the only thing that will set you free. Diana nodded, the feeling of being on the verge of a revelation driving her. I'll do it. I can't live in ignorance while lies surround my life. What once seemed like a burden now became a mission to discover the truth. Diana entered her mother's house with her heart racing, the image of the old photo still echoing in her mind. The living room was immersed in a near-palpable silence, and the familiar smell of coffee mixed with lavender perfume brought a wave of nostalgia. She headed to the photo album that had always been kept on a high shelf, as if guarding secrets her mother never wanted to share. As she flipped through the yellowed pages, a new wave of emotions hit her. Childhood photos, smiles, and birthday parties now seemed like a facade. How did I not notice this before? She thought, remembering the image of Evan smiling next to her mother and the mysterious man who seemed to emerge from the shadows of the past. His face was enigmatic, and the connection he had with Evan left her uneasy. The door to the living room opened slowly, and her mother, Helena, entered, surprised to see Diana there. Hi, dear. You came to visit without warning, Helena said, trying to hide the apprehension in her voice. Mom, we need to talk, Diana replied, her serious tone making her seem older than she really was. About this photo. She showed the image, her gaze fixed on her mother, seeking answers. Helena paled. Where did you find that? She asked, her voice trembling. In your album. Why is Evan here, along with you and that man? Who is he? The indignation began to mix with the growing fear. Diana, this is complicated. I didn't want you to know, Helena began, but the young woman interrupted her. Complicated? Mom, he is my husband, and this changes everything. What have you hidden from me? Helena took a deep breath, clearly trying to organize her thoughts. He is a distant relative. He has always been in our lives, but I didn't want you to worry about it. Not worry? Mom, this man is linked to Evan's betrayal. How can you say you didn't want me to worry? Diana felt the anger boiling inside her. Helena, realizing the gravity of the situation, finally gave in. I didn't know he was involved with Evan. I had no idea things would come to this point. He has always been a shadow in our lives, but I didn't know he could affect you like this. Diana felt a chill in her stomach. Does this mean my entire life was built on lies, on secrets you kept from me? Diana, I just wanted to protect you. I didn't know this would happen, Helena replied, tears beginning to form in her eyes. Diana turned away, feeling lost. The truth she sought seemed farther away than ever. I need time to understand all this. Aware that she couldn't stay trapped in this web of lies, Diana decided to seek out Josiah, the only person she felt she could trust now. Later, at the cafe where they had met earlier, Josiah was waiting for her, his expression worried. Diana, how are you? He asked when he saw her. I found out something frightening about my family's past, and it involves Evan. We need to talk, she said, the urgency in her voice making Josiah lean forward. Talk, I'm here to listen, he replied, his gaze attentive and supportive. Diana shared the discovery of the photo and her mother's revelation. Josiah, this means that Evan's betrayal might be part of something much bigger. I feel there's something deeper involving this story. Let's find out together. We can't leave it like this. The truth must come to light, Josiah stated, deciding he would not allow Diana to face this alone. Josiah's determination gave Diana a new drive. You're right. I can't live in uncertainty anymore. We need to investigate this mysterious man and find out what he really represents for my family and for Evan. Diana felt a mix of fear and hope. The journey was just beginning, but now she knew she was not alone. Diana sat at the kitchen table, her mother's diary open in front of her, the yellowed pages like the time that seemed to have stopped in her life. The secrets that were revealed left her stunned. The mysterious man in the photo, with an enigmatic smile that hovered over the tragic events of her mother's childhood, now took on a new dimension. The words in the diary echoed in her mind. He brought disgrace to our family. Diana's breathing became heavy. What else didn't she know? Josiah, who had arrived earlier, watched Diana with concern. He knew that uncovering the secrets could be devastating. You need time to process all this, he suggested softly. None of this is easy to digest. But I can't just ignore it, Diana replied, frustration evident in her tone. My whole life was built on lies. How can I move on if I don't understand what happened? Josiah approached and gently placed his hand on her shoulder. Sometimes, facing the past is the only way to find peace. I'll be here with you, no matter what you decide to do. Meanwhile, Evan was outside the house, struggling against the emotional storm that the betrayal had unleashed. He knew his approach to Diana was risky, but he needed her. He knocked on the door, his voice laden with despair. Diana, please, let me explain. I'm sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. Diana looked at the door, her heart divided. Evan, you don't understand. It's not just about the betrayal. It's about everything you've hidden from me. I can't just forget. I know I messed up, but what we're building deserves a second chance, he pleaded, his voice trembling. I love you. Love is not enough when trust has been destroyed, Diana replied, firm in her decision. The pain and betrayal were still fresh in her memory, and she recalled the look on Kylie's face, her best friend, who had become a stranger. With a resigned sigh, Diana turned to Josiah, who was watching the scene with empathy. I need some time alone, but I don't want you to leave. I'll always be here, Josiah assured her, a slight supportive smile on his face. Diana felt a comforting warmth in her heart, a sign that she wasn't alone on this journey. Determination grew within her. It was time to face the ghosts of the past, not just for her mother, but for herself. The light of truth began to shine, and she was ready to move forward. The city lights shone through the window of Diana's apartment, reflecting her turbulent emotional state. She sat at the table, her mother's diary open in front of her, as the pieces of the puzzle began to come together. What had once seemed like an isolated betrayal now revealed a web of secrets that connected her to Evan and Kylie in ways she could never have imagined. With a shaky breath, Diana called Josiah. His voice was soft and concerned on the other end of the line. "Diana, are you okay? What happened?" "Josiah, I found something that might change everything," she said, hesitating. "Evan and Kylie, they weren't just cheating. They were involved in a scheme to cover up my family's past." "What do you mean?" Josiah asked, his curiosity evident. "I found evidence linking the two to an old secret my mother tried to hide. They were aware of the connection and did everything to keep me from knowing," Diana explained, feeling anger and betrayal bubbling up inside her. "You need to confront them, Diana. They have to pay for this," Josiah said, his tone becoming firm. Diana took a deep breath, determined. "Yes, I'm going to confront them. I can't let this continue. I can't live like this." The meeting was set for the next evening. Diana sat at the bar where it all began, the tension in the air palpable. Evan and Kylie arrived together, nervous smiles on their faces. "Hi, Diana. You look different," Kylie said, the insecurity in her voice undeniable. "Different is one way to put it," Diana replied coldly. She looked at Evan, who averted his gaze. "I know about you two. I know about what you're trying to cover up." The atmosphere grew heavy. "What do you mean?" Evan asked, his voice trembling. "I know that your betrayal wasn't just about me. It was about something much bigger. You were trying to protect me from what exactly? The scandal my family hid for so long?" Diana shot back, the truth coming out of her lips like poison. Kylie tried to intervene. "Diana, that's not how things are. We just wanted to protect you." "Protect? That's just an excuse for what you did. I'm not a child, and I don't need protection like that," she yelled, frustration flooding her eyes. "Diana, please listen." Evan began to plead. "Listen, I've heard more than enough. The truth is that you took advantage of my trust. I can't stay here anymore. I'm walking away from you. Forever," Diana declared, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. With that, she turned away, determined to rewrite her story. As she left the bar, her heart was heavy, but the determination to free herself from the pain and betrayal was stronger. Josiah was waiting for her outside, his eyes full of understanding and support. "You were amazing, Diana. Now it's time to look forward," he said, enveloping her in a comforting embrace. Diana smiled, for the first time in a long time, feeling a new hope bloom inside her. The true strength had always been there, waiting to be discovered, and now, free from the shadows of the past, she was ready to embrace a new and promising future. So, what would you do if you discovered that the betrayal was just the tip of the iceberg? Do we have the courage to look deeper and face the secrets that are hidden just below the surface? How many times do we ignore the signs, preferring to believe in an easier version of reality? The lesson here is that sometimes what is hidden is far more devastating than what is in plain sight. It's time to reflect. What do you really know about your own life and the people around you? Don't be afraid to seek the truth, even if it's painful. And if you want to continue learning more about how to deal with these complex situations and better understand human relationships, don't forget to click on the video that's appearing on your screen now. This is, in my opinion, one of the best stories I've ever told, the most emotional. And if you liked what you heard now, you'll definitely love this other story too. So subscribe to the channel, click on the video on your screen now, and I'll see you in a few seconds.